I'm Mardle, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome along to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. This is the Bounce Out, episode 5, the latest instalment in our Skype podcast that we bring for you. Obviously, we're still in isolation. We're still in quarantine and lockdown, down to this dreaded, dastardly coronavirus. But this is what Skype was built for, gentlemen. So thank goodness for that. Let's introduce you to the team on the line for this podcast. We've got the man himself, Josh Gorton, on the line. How are you, Josh?
I'm not too bad, all things considering. John, how are you?
I'm good. How are you managing to fill your days, Josh? Obviously, it's been a week or a couple of weeks now since we recorded. How have you been?
Been tough because I haven't got much work at the moment as a freelance with all the sport being cancelled. It's about trying to have some sort of routine. I've been doing a lot of content on my site, been doing a competition which we're going to touch on later on, but it's tough, but there's people worse off, so I can't complain too much. Yeah,
absolutely. In actual fact, 20 minutes ago, it's now 20 past 8, we opened the windows up and the whole street was applauding the NHS again at 8 p.m. last night. Did you hear that, Josh, and take part in that this evening?
Yeah, no, we're all out there, our whole street. It's very heartwarming. Obviously, our NHS and also all our other key workers are doing a tremendous job to keep the country going on the front line in this pandemic. So yeah, it was heartwarming to see all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. It's a balance of looking after the kids in the daytime and making sure they're sort of entertained, getting out, getting some exercise, making sure everyone's fed and watered, and then it's tea time, bath time, bedtime, and then try and fill your time in the evening. Now, obviously, I've been doing a lot of online social media stuff, as you've seen. I've been broadcasting from my Facebook page, just playing some music and keeping in touch with people. So just try to remain in touch. Let's see who's on the line as well. Jordan Harrison rejoins us again. Jordan, third appearance.
Yep, 2 in a row now.
I know. So this is your hat trick.
It is.
Josh, when people used to be a guest on Soccer AM, and it was their third appearance, they would present them with a ball, a football in a glass box, and make a presentation. Have we organised a presentation for Jordan?
Well, we haven't been able to organise it in person, John, as we're all in isolation. But Jordan has now got his mug, which he's been pestering us for weeks. To be fair, we should have got it to him earlier, but he's now got his mug.
So that didn't take too long, did it?
That is
right now.
It's the equivalent of the hat-trick ball, John, so it's a good replacement.
Just before we went live, Jordan, you sent us a message on the WhatsApp group saying, give me 5 minutes, I'm going to make a cup of tea. Have you put said tea in your new JDP mug?
I have indeed. It's been my main mug for the last 3 days now.
Okay, excellent. I want you to take a screenshot, a photo of that, and upload it to your Twitter account, please.
Okay, will do.
Welcome along, Jordan. It's good to have you with us. Now, normally, regular listeners of the JDP and the Bounce Out would know that Neil Connor, our regular resident statsman, will be joining us. Neil is currently snowed under with work. Neil works in the banking sector, dealing with a lot of their IT systems. And as you can imagine, he's probably going through quite a torrid time at the moment with what's going on in the world. He is absolutely snowed in with work. He has messaged us, Josh, and said he might be able to join the chat a little bit later on, though.
Yeah, of course, fingers crossed. I mean, he is very snowed under, as you mentioned, John, but he's still been contributing to the show. We've been doing the Fantasy World Championship, which I'm going to touch on later on. Neil's been bringing us some virtual odds, which I've been posting on Twitter, and they've gone down really well. So hopefully we'll be joined by Neil later on if he's not too busy.
Excellent. Yeah, hopefully we'll get him on the show. But if not, Neil, we wish you all the best, and hope you're not too snowed under, mate. Right, Josh, I'm going to start with the biggest news of the week. I've quit smoking.
Fantastic, John. Congratulations.
I can't really claim that I've quit smoking because I'm only 48 hours in, so my last cigarette was a couple of days ago. So I've got a patch on, and yeah, I seem to be doing all right at the moment. It's proper taking the cravings off. Jordan, you've tried the patches before, haven't you?
Yeah, I did for a little period, and then I tried the vape. Gave up at the start of this year. So if you can put your mind to it, then definitely worth it in the long run.
I've just had a message from the captain of my golf club, and he said that if I can knock it on the edge all the way up until his captain's day in September, he's going to donate £100 to the captain's charity. So there's some motivation.
Good incentive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great incentive.
Okay, gents, enough about me. Let's move it along. Coming up, Josh, as you mentioned, we are going to be discussing your first ever Fantasy World Championship that's gone down a storm on Twitter. We'll talk about it in depth in a moment, but just give us a very, very brief summary of what it's all about.
Well, we saw the success of the PDC, did their own competition, the Walk-On World Cup, which was great fun on social media over the last week or so, and we wanted to do something similar. So we were toying with the idea of doing a competition, whether it be 64 or 32 players. We decided upon 32 players. I think it was Jordan who came up with the idea originally, so we decided on that. 32 players, past and present legends of the game, included 3 female players as well. So, and it's just a knockout competition, open draw, completely random, 32 of our selections, and it's all down to the public to vote for their favourite players to progress through the tournament. We're now down to the final 4, the semi-finalists. We're going to have a break tomorrow because the podcast is going to come out on Friday, and the tournament will resume on Saturday and then conclude on Sunday. But it's been great fun. A few of the players have got involved in it, and it's been good fun, which is what we need at the moment, a bit of light-hearted entertainment.
So Jordan, you came up with the idea originally. Has Josh worked out a commission for you for the idea?
I'm still waiting for it.
Obviously, Josh has had a lot of social.
He's
He's had a lot of social media exposure recently. Lots of new eyes on the Josh's Dartistry brand. So yeah, I think you're due a little check, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. What about you, Josh?
Well, let's be honest, I'm big fry here anyway. You know, I'm up, and I have to say, Jordan, the commission is the mug. I thought that was part of the deal.
I like the way you said with no irony in your voice, you're big fry, while you're sitting here hosting your own podcast as opposed to appearing on the official Sky Sports Darts cast.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm hoping for a call up soon. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's hope that you tell us about it next time, because you failed to do that. Anyway, moving on. As you mentioned, Josh, we also had the PDC Walk-On World Cup, didn't we?
We did, and that was great fun. I mean, Wayne Mardle, we had an interview with him, John, which we're going to include later on. Wayne was fantastic value, and he played a very starring role in this World Cup, which we're going to touch on later on.
Excellent stuff. And then, you also managed to have a chat with Wayne, didn't you, about other things other than the Walk-On World Cup and the Fantasy World Champs, particularly touching on his coaching at the moment, Josh.
Yeah, Wayne's a big advocate of coaching in darts. You've probably seen some videos he posted on YouTube and his Twitter account, coaching tutorials during this time, because Wayne's very active on the exhibition circuit, Sky Sports commentator, and like all of us with the coronavirus pandemic, it has affected his workload. So he's been posting more tutorials, which have been great, giving darts fans some tips on their action, how to improve. And he coaches a number of top PDC players currently. He's really interested on some of the techniques he uses, and also what he thinks can be implemented to try and improve coaching in darts. So that was really interesting insight from Wayne, which we'll hear later on.
Excellent stuff. We'll conclude episode 5 of the Bounce Out. We've got a few news items to discuss, Josh. Even though there's no actual darts action, no arrows being thrown in anger, well, not in front of a live audience anyway, there's still quite a bit to discuss, isn't there? There's obviously stuff going down with the coronavirus and the financial support and some sort of online virtual events that are taking place as well.
Yeah, the PDC, you've got to commend them for their innovative approach. They launched darts at home on Wednesday night. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that went down, and hopefully we'll see more of that in the very near future. A few more tournaments being postponed, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. News about Carl Anderson. We wish him very well. He's been tested positive for coronavirus. And then a little bit more positive news later on in the show.
Okay, we look forward to that. Don't forget you can follow us on social media. Check out the Josh's Dartistry on Twitter, at Josh's Dartistry. You can also find the Facebook page, do a little search for that. You can download the podcast, whether it's the regular main Josh's Dartistry podcast or the Bounce Out show, the Skype show that we do. You can find that on Apple Podcast. We're on Spotify. We are on Stitcher, Castbox, YouTube. So do follow us and find us on there. Check out Josh's website, as Josh mentioned at the top of the show there. He's been working hard trying to get some content online despite the lack of darts. Check out www.joshisdartistry.com. You're listening to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Don't forget you can check us out on Facebook, the Josh's Dartistry page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. And you can also go to our website www.joshisdartistry.com for all the latest news, blogs and information on the world of darts. Don't forget you can also call us and leave us a message on our voicemail box. That's 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329. Call our voicemail box, leave us a message, leave us a question, and we may play it on the show. Now back to the show.
Hi, it's Adrian Lewis, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Okay, welcome back. Right, Josh, Fantasy World Championships. Take me through it from start to finish, mate.
Okay, John. Well, the tournament kicked off over the last weekend. As we mentioned earlier, 32 players from past and present. So an absolute multitude of darting legends, some of which are still in the tournament, some of which have departed. As we know, it's purely based on social media polls. So it's largely down to popularity in some cases. And we're down to the final four now, but the semi-finals does not include a certain Phil Taylor or Michael van Gerwen, in shocking news.
How did you come up with the 32 players that you were going to include? I know there was lots of toing and froing on our WhatsApp group about who you were going to include. How did you come up with the criteria?
There wasn't really a specific criteria. I mean, obviously the top players, there's probably about 16 to 20 players who are guaranteed inclusion. And I'm talking about multiple world champions, multiple major winners. I think the only multiple world champion we didn't include, it was very tight, was Scott Waits. He just missed the cut, but he's the only multiple world champion who didn't make the cut. So we didn't miss out any huge names in the world of darts, but we also went for some influential figures. Maybe the likes of, say, Peter Manley and Wayne Mardle haven't won an absolute litany of titles, but they've been very influential figures in darts. They're massive characters, they're very well known. And we also went for 3 female representatives, because I think the women's game has grown beyond all measure over the last 5-6 years and continues to grow. So we wanted to include some female representation. There wasn't a set criteria, but we tried to make it as fair as possible and include some legends of the past and present, and also some great characters as well.
Gents, I'm just going to stop you there. I've got good news. I've got Neil Connor just messaged me. He is available to join us, and I think, if we check now, we've got Neil on the line. Neil, hello.
Hello, sorry I'm a bit late.
No problem. We did say at the start of the show that you are absolutely snowed under with work at the moment. How's things going?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, for me, I'm lucky enough that I can work from home and work fairly normally. But with everything that's going on, it's very busy. But I'm in a better situation than a lot of other people, so
yeah, of course.
I'm not going to mind.
Anyway, listen, it's great to have you along. We're just in the middle of discussing the Fantasy World Championships, which I know, Neil, you've had a lot to do with. You've been...
Oh,
yes. Is that you washing your hands a bit?
Yeah, I think this one's on Josh and Jordan. So,
okay, so I did just mention, Josh was just telling us the players that were included. Josh, the women, you wanted to mention the women that you selected, Josh.
Yeah, I mentioned, well, we like I said, the women's game's grown immeasurably over the last 5-6 years. We wanted to include some female representation. That was a tough one because I went for 10-time women's world champion Trina Gulliver, the most successful women's player of all time. She had to be in, really. 4-time women's world champion Lisa Ashton made history by securing her PDC tour card in January, the first woman to do so. And then a controversial selection in the eyes of some was Fallon Sherrock. Now, Fallon's not a world champion, but she did make history at Alexandra Palace by becoming the first woman to win a match at the PDC World Championship, and she's one of the most famous players in the game currently. But notable mentions also for 2-time women's world champion Mikuru Suzuki, who just missed out, as to the 3-time world champion Anastasia Dobromyslova, and also Dita Hebden, the legend of the women's game, over 130 titles. So we couldn't include them all, but I wanted to just acknowledge them because they weren't forgotten about. Yeah,
it was difficult, wasn't it, to nail it down to 32 players. And I did see a couple of people say, I saw somebody say, where's Mikuru Suzuki to you, Josh, 2-time world champion?
Yeah, there's a lot of players who could probably feel a little bit hard done by. We were talking about at one point doing a 64-player field because you could probably legislate for 64 of the top players, but we wanted to really narrow it down to the 32 because sometimes you can almost get a little bit lost if you do a 64-man event or 64-player event, should I say. So a few tough decisions, but it's only a little bit of fun, so we can't take it too seriously.
Neil, instant reaction to before we talk about the results that have gone forward, reaction to the Fantasy World Championship from you. It seems to have gone down well, doesn't it? We've had a lot of people taking part in the polls.
It has, and obviously it's just a bit of fun. And as Josh said, we deliberated over the format. I think we went from 32 to 64 to 48 and then back to 32. But there's been a lot of interest generated in it, and I think the Phil Taylor versus Wayne Mardle game yesterday brought in a few thousand votes. So it's obviously captured the interest of some. I think it's upset some because their favourite players haven't made it through to the latter stages. But it's great because some of the players have also been involved. I think we've had Wayne Mardle, I think we've had Bob Anderson, I think we've had Glenn Durrant as well. So it's generated interest. It's a bit of fun, and it's a good opportunity for Josh to interact with his followers.
Jordan, there's always that conversation to be had about how people are going to vote. Are we voting on their darting ability at the height of their game in their day, or are we voting on media popularity? There's always that debate to be had, isn't there?
Yeah, it's always the case with these Twitter polls. That's why you find with any football poll that Liverpool fans will take it over and ruin it for everyone. So it's always the case. The loudest and most popular on Twitter normally get quite far.
Anyway, listen, Josh, let's have some results. Take us through how things have gone so far.
Okay, so I'm going to just talk about the semi-finalists and their route, John. So the first semi-final is probably the semi-final I think we all wanted to see, the first one, or what we expected to see. It's going to be a battle of the 5-time world champions. It's Raymond van Barneveld up against Eric Bristow in the first semi-final. Now, both have had tough routes with a draw. Barney's played 3 Mardle world champions. He beat Jockey Wilson, 2-time world champion, in the first round. Saw off 2-time world champion Dennis Priestley in the last 16, and today has knocked out 3-time world champion John Lowe to reach the semi-finals.
That will not go down very well with Neil. Neil, I know John's a favourite of yours, isn't he?
I do like John Lowe, and I was hoping to see him at least make the semi-final. So I have seen Josh posting for Barney on Facebook and other mediums. So
that is a disgraceful allegation.
We know what that's all about.
If I'm being honest, I've got to put John under pressure here, because when I put the first poll out for Jockey Wilson against Raymond van Barneveld, John sent us a video on his WhatsApp group of him voting for Jockey Wilson on his 6 different Twitter accounts.
Yeah, it's true. I can't sit here and deny it. I have got multiple Twitter accounts. I've got one that I operate for, obviously my personal one, my band, my football club, my cricket club, and maybe 1 or 2 others as well. And just to wind you up, Josh, I did use multiple accounts to try and vote against Barney, but it didn't make a blind bit of difference, Josh, because he won through nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he would progress to the semis, but it's not been an easy draw. I mean, all 3 of the players he's faced are legends. There's a good argument to say that Jockey Wilson, Priestley and John Lowe are all potentially top 10 of all time. That's how good they are. So it wasn't an easy route, but Barney, as well as being one of the best of all time, he's also one of the most popular of all time, as Jordan said. And so that's a massive factor in it as well.
Okay, let's talk about his opponent, Eric Bristow. Talk about his route to the final, Josh.
Eric's also had it tough. Johnny, in the first round, he was pitted against 2004 world champion Andy Fordham. He was a comfortable winner in that one, Eric. And in the last 2 rounds, he's beaten 2 Scottish world champions in the shape of Gary Anderson and Peter Wright. Now, I expected Eric to progress quite comfortably, but it was really close to going out in the second round against Gary Anderson. He only progressed with 51% of the votes. So it was a really, really tight. Anderson was leading. Yeah,
it seesawed, didn't it, all day long? I think it was only 1 or 2% maximum that the swing was at any stage during the day. And then Eric seemed to have a late surge to get the victory.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more comfortable, but I mean, Gary, not only is he a quality player, he's also, again, very popular. I think because it's almost recency bias, isn't it? Because he's still current, he's still at the top of the game. A lot of people, I think, maybe have that bias towards some of the more current crops. But Eric still ran out a winner there, 51%, and today he faced Peter Wright, who had knocked out Martin Adams, a 3-time world champion in the previous round, and it was more comfortable today for Eric Bristow. 61% of the votes saw him through to the semi-finals.
Okay, let's talk about semi-final number 2. Josh, who's taking part in that?
Well, if you'd have asked me to predict the semi-final before the tournament, I wouldn't have picked this one, John. But it is Glenn Durrant, the 3-time BDO world champion, against the one and only Wayne Mardle. And I think it's no coincidence that these 2 have been the most active on social media throughout the competition. Wayne Mardle has seen off 3 players with a combined total of 28 world championship titles between them. He beat 10 times women world champion Trina Gulliver quite convincingly in the opening round. Then, as we mentioned earlier, beat 16-time world champion Phil Taylor with over 2,200 votes in that poll.
Absolutely
Still
ridiculous. I'm fuming about that result still.
It was very tight, in fairness, considering how much Wayne was vying for support. He still only got 53%, which is testament to Phil's following. But Wayne progressed nonetheless, and today he stormed past two-time world champion Adrian Lewis, I think with over 70% of the vote. So Wayne Mardle is possibly the favourite for this tournament, I'd say now.
Jordan, Glenn Durrant, were you expecting to see him and, let's be honest, Mardle in the semi-finals?
No, I wasn't. I'll be honest. I thought Mardle might have a chance after his World Cup escapades, Walk-On World Cup escapades last week. But I wasn't expecting Duzza to get through, especially past Michael van Gerwen. But after he did that, I think I changed my mind and thought that he might get past John Park today.
Yeah, I've seen both of them tweeting, Wayne Mardle in particular, putting tweets out saying, come on, Team Mardle, and then Duzza follows it up with tweets about, I'm calling on the Duzza army. They're both summoning their online social media powers, Neil, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and I think I've been trying to set the odds for each round, and I think when I've kind of put my suggested odds on our group for discussion, I think Wayne Mardle's always been knocked down, but you can't underestimate the following that he's got on Twitter, and he's very active on there. So it obviously makes a big difference.
I know you've only just joined us online, Neil, and I know the semi-finals are only decided today. But have you managed to take a look at the four players involved and perhaps get some odds together for the semis?
I will do. I haven't got them yet. I've got a feeling the winner will come from the second semi-final with Mardle and Durrant.
Okay.
So,
Me too.
I think the winner should come from the first semi-final, if I'm honest.
It's almost as though the first semi-final will be based on darting ability. Listen, I'm not disrespecting Glenn Durrant or Wayne Mardle at all there, but the second semi-final seems like it's going to be based on social media presence.
Maybe they'll have a social media war during the game itself.
I'm just looking at some of the odds, Neil, that you put out early doors at the start of the tournament. You had Taylor 11 to 8 favourite, MVG 13 to 8 favourite. Two players who are now out and nowhere near the semi-finals.
Yeah, so I think up front when we put this out, we said we wanted people to vote on who they thought was the best player at their peak. And if I'd have been voting, those two, I think they would have met in the semi-final. Josh, I think they were in the same half of the draw, weren't they?
I mean, I think it's almost like a tournament of two halves, really, as you mentioned. I think Bristow Van Barneveld was probably the correct semi-final in the first one, and it's almost completely opposite in the bottom half of the draw. But in fairness, I mean, Offaly is very influential in terms of social media, but Glenn is a 3-time BDO World Champion back-to-back. That's no mean feat. And Wayne's quite self-deprecating about his own ability, really. He kind of makes light of his career. But let's not forget, he was a very good player in his day. 5-time semi-finalist at the Worlds. That's no mean feat as well. So, admittedly, I wouldn't have had them in the semi-finals, but they're still very good players in their own right.
Well, Josh, just to remind you, me and Jordan, we paid a trip recently to our friendly fantasy bookmaker, Gorton's Gambles, and we took Neil's offer on these odds. And I know that I backed Glenn Durrant at 25 to 1, and I know that Jordan backed Wayne Mardle at Neil's odds of 40 to 1. So one of them is definitely going to be in the final.
Neil's odds are 40 to 1. I think if I was actually to drag out what I actually put Wayne as,
right,
he would have been a lot lower than that. But I think I was overruled.
Anyway, the fact remains that me and Jordan both had 20 quid on both of those. So if Mardle does win it at 40 to 1, that's a lot of money that you owe Jordan, Josh.
We'll have to look at that government furlough scheme a little bit closer. I think I'll ask Daniel Levy for some advice.
Oh, you couldn't resist it, could you?
No.
Nasty. Okay. Anyway, yeah, we'll come back to Neil for some odds, maybe in a moment once he's had a chance to have a.
Hang on. I want to interrupt just quickly because I think obviously it's great fun, this Fantasy World Championship, and it's great that people have got involved. But I want to get your opinions now. If you were voting just purely yourself on the darting ability, who would have been your final four, and who would be your winner and why?
All right, I'll go first. My final four would have been Taylor, Van Gerwen, Bristow, and Van Barneveld, I think, for me. And my winner if we're talking about players at the height of their darting ability, would have been Phil Taylor.
Yep, fair answer. I'd have gone for the same 4. I think you can make a case for all 4, really. I'd have probably just gone for Taylor. I think Van Gerwen's possibly achieved better standards in patches, but Taylor, you can't argue with his achievements. And I think I'd have probably just gone for Bristow to edge out Raymond. So I'd have gone for a Taylor-Bristow final with Taylor winning it.
Jordan, give us your final 4 and your winner.
I would have gone for the same 4 as well. I think they're the 4 that are probably undeniably the best 4 ever. But I would go for MVG to win it. I think MVG in his prime, on his very best game, no one can handle him.
Fair comments. And Neil, are you going for the same 4, or have you got an ace up your sleeve?
No, I think I would stick with the final 4, the same 4. I think my finalists would be Eric Bristow and Phil Taylor, and I would have Phil Taylor to come out on top.
So Neil going for the master against the apprentice. That would have been an absolutely cracking match. Okay, so we know our semi-final lineup. Josh, when do the semi-finals take place?
Well, we're going to have a little bit of a break now. This podcast will be going out on Friday, so we're having a little bit of a break so everyone can catch up and prepare for that. So it's going to be a big finals weekend, semi-final on the Saturday, and the grand final on Sunday.
Josh, I think we should give a mug to the winner of our Fantasy World Championships. Maybe we can get in contact with their management or get in contact with the player direct and send them a mug along. Dear old Eric, obviously not with us any longer, but we'd love to see him win it. But if the other 3 guys win it, we should send them a JDP mug, Josh.
Oh, I think that's only fair, John. I mean, they've achieved some great things in their careers, respectively, but I'm sure this will be the height of their achievements.
Excellent stuff. Okay, Neil, let's have a conversation then. Let's have some odds for the final 4 in the semi-final. I reckon there's probably going to be a bit of arguments here, especially from Josh, and considering Raymond van Barneveld. But Neil, come on, let's have some odds. Over to you.
It's very tricky because you're going to get the 2 players that interact most on social media are playing each other. So I'm going to say that the tournament favourite, and I base this based on the fact that he's breezed through every round, is Raymond van Barneveld.
Oh, my word.
Ooh.
Wow.
And I'm going to install him as 13 to 8 favourite. Glenn Durrant, I'm going to have as second favourite, and I've got him at 15 to 8. Then I'm going to go Wayne Mardle, 5 to 2. And I'm going to take Eric Bristow out to 3 to 1. Even though he's probably the best player left. Wow. So just to recap, RVB favourite 13 to 8, Durrant second favourite 15 to 8, Mardle 5 to 2, and Bristow out to 3 to 1. Josh, instant reaction to those odds.
I'm a little bit surprised, I've got to say. I mean, Neil, I think rightly so, if we're basing it on ability, but I think after the quarter-final lineup was completed, Bristow was a favourite, and now he's gone out to the 4th favourite. So it's an interesting one. I personally think it's all down to whoever's in the final. I think if it is Barney against Durrant or Mardle, it could be a bit of a to and fro on social media. Who knows? We saw Barney and Mardle in the Walk-On World Cup final, and they were having some great banter and quips on social media throughout the day, so that would be good fun. But I think if we're basing it on ability, you base it on RVB or Bristow, but it's hard to look past Mardle or Durrant, the winner of that, if they get through and they promote it on social media.
Jordan, instant reaction to those odds. What do you reckon?
I like the look of the 2 outsiders to make the final, and I would probably say that I'd stick with my Mardle prediction early on, and I would like a little bet at 5 to 2 on Mardle.
Okay, so Jordan's placing a bet with Gorton's gambles.
Let me just say, if I was to pick, I'm doing this based on how I think the public will react. If I was to pick it on darting ability, then I would install Eric as favourite, followed by RVB, and then Durrant and Mardle. So let's see.
Okay, let's have a prediction then from all 4 of us. Who's going to win it? Jordan, I want your pick first.
Wayne Mardle.
Neil Connor?
Raymond van Barneveld.
I'm going to go Wayne Mardle. I'm joining Jordan just for the social media presence, and Josh Gorton.
Yeah, I'd probably have to say Wayne Mardle. I mean, I'd love Barney to win it, but I'll probably get accused of fixing it if he did win it. It's on my website, so I think we'll go for Wayne. That's a safer bet.
Okay, so that's three of us going for Wayne Mardle and Neil going for Raymond van Barneveld. Okay, let us know what your thoughts on Twitter. Obviously, when the polls go live, please do get involved with those. Give us your votes. If you can retweet and like all the polls, that'd be absolutely fantastic. We'd love to get a record number of people joining in with that. That'd be really good fun. Anyway, listen, Josh, Jordan, and Neil, I'm not going to lie, you three have. I've not had much to do with that this week. I've been busy doing other things, but you three have you've cooked up a really good format there, and people have really taken to it. So you three should be congratulated for your efforts. Well done.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, Josh. Not only is Wayne in the hunt to win the Josh's Dartistry Fantasy World Championship, he also had a massive victory last week in the PDC Walk-On World Cup, didn't he?
I know. He, when I spoke to Wayne on the phone, John, he jokingly said that he's in the best form of his career right now. It's superb stuff. But yeah, great fun with the PDC Walk-On World Cup. It was 64 players. The PDC devised it. Again, a few past players, mainly present players. Simply fans voting for their favourite walk-on song. Or, well, not walk-on song, their favourite walk-on. So we got down to the final two of Wayne Mardle and Raymond van Barneveld, two very contrasting approaches. And Wayne ran out the winner with 56% of the votes.
What I quite enjoyed about the World Cup walk-on, Jordan, was the fact that the PDC were uploading videos just to give everyone a reminder of the walk-ons, and it was really sort of nice to be reminded of some of the favourite and fantastic walk-ons that we've seen in the past. Any particular favourites for you, Jordan, over the years?
Well, my favourite is for the song purely is Daryl Gurdy's Sweet Caroline. I was a bit gutted that didn't get to the final, but I think the memorable one in recent years was Hendo's Premier League contender night. The atmosphere there was intense. I think they tweeted that out during the World Cup, and it was it was a sight to behold.
Neil, were you reminded of any personal particular favourites during the competition?
I'll be honest, I didn't see too much of it until the latter stages. Yeah, so I think Peter Wright's is one that's always stuck out for me because, you know, he turned up with, suddenly he's got a Mohican and he's dancing across the stage, and I'm not sure, unless I'm mistaken, that we'd seen anything like that before in darts.
I'm gonna go for as one of my particular favourites. I love Raymond van Barneveld, again for the music and for the passion that Barney always shows, and he looks to the heavens. Barney's walk-on's always been a particular favourite of mine. Josh, Mardle, Mardle's walk-on is known for, particularly the one that they uploaded, is known for his zany running down the aisle and running across the stage, and it was good to see him recreate it this week on Twitter in his back garden.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, I think he after his quarter-final win against Michael van Gerwen, he posted one. He then posted one after he beat Devon Peterson in the semi-finals, and then treated us to another one before his final against RVB. So he was canvassing for support, which was great. But I think the highlight of the whole tournament for me was the players agreed before the final that after the final finished, they'd each recreate each other's walk-on. So we had Wayne firstly recreating Barney's sort of intense walk-on, as you mentioned, looking to the heavens, and then we had Barney in a Hawaiian shirt dancing around his back garden, which for me was the highlight of the year on Twitter.
Okay, well, we're going to hear from Wayne shortly. Josh, you managed to get to have a conversation with Wayne on the phone. What did he have to say about his Walk-On World Cup win?
Oh, Wayne was in great spirits as usual. It's always really good to chat to him. Really insightful as ever, John. But he was full of the joys. Of course, it's a difficult time for everybody, as Wayne mentioned in the interview. So this was a great idea by the PDC. Harmless bit of fun and entertainment, something to pass the time. I think Wayne said he's probably spent far too much time on Twitter caring about the championship. But yeah, he was chuffed. And he said it justified all his years of acting like a clown, in his own words. So he was full of the joys.
Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Well, guys, I'm delighted to be joined here by a friend of the show and recent Walk-On World Cup winner, Wayne Mardle. How are you, Wayne?
I'm all right, Josh. I don't like to talk about my latest victory, or should I say my only victory. Walk-On World Cup champion, eh? What on earth?
Brilliant. That was brilliant entertainment last week. But it's come in strange times at the moment, Wayne. As we know, with the coronavirus pandemic, it's unprecedented. It's decimated the darting calendar, and we know how much it's impacted the players. But how has it affected you? Because obviously you're a Sky Sports commentator, you're very active on the exhibition circuit, so it must be strange for you as well.
It really is. We kind of, when I say we, I'm on about in general, people that are busy sometimes think, I really wish I wasn't quite so busy. Well, when it's enforced, you kind of like, hold on now, I've got so much time on my hands that I don't know what to do with myself every day, and you kind of, like everyone else, you're looking for things to do sometimes. Yes, we've all got our own little projects going on, and I'm trying to keep busy, like you said, on Twitter with like the Walk-On World Cup and those kind of real bonus distractions, if you like, and just doing videos. I am putting them on YouTube, sort of instructional videos. I'm taking the dog out, which I do anyway, whether coronavirus or not. I don't think there's a cupboard that hasn't been cleaned. I don't think there's a wardrobe that hasn't been kind of ransacked and things thrown out. It's just the way it is right now. But it's the uncertainty of when it's all going to end. Like you said about the Premier League and other events that have been kind of put to one side, and the events in life as well. We don't know when it's all going to get back to normal, if it's ever going to get back to normal. But all we can do, mate, is just plough on. That's all we can do.
No, indeed, Wayne. But you mentioned the uncertainty there. I wanted to touch on that because from a player's perspective, how tough is it for them, particularly the Premier League players? Because in terms of their practice regime, they've got to be prepared to resume, whenever. But like you say, it could be weeks, it could be months. So how tough is it mentally for the players to keep ticking over?
Yeah, it will be. The fact that the players are so talented that they can get ready in a day or so, in a couple of days. But it's having a purpose. It's keeping on top of your game. It's making sure that you don't get lazy. It's making sure that you're kind of still living right. You're still practicing. Look, there's no need to go mad like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. No. But at least have a couple of hours a day and just keeping the arm ticking over. And just so you have a sighter of the dartboard every day. That's important for a professional darts player. As for the competitive side of things, those that were on kind of the crest of a wave, playing well, having results, it'll be like, this could have done with just carrying on, like Glenn Durrant, who's having a good time at the top of the table. Michael van Gerwen just won the UK Open, didn't he? And at the other end of that, you've got Daryl Gurney, who can't really get a win, but was looking to kind of step forward again on top of that decent run in the UK Open. Well, now they're all kind of in the same boat of, when am I going to play competitively again? But for those players, it's okay. The ones that I'm really concerned about, and good news has come along today, is that any players that are Pro Tour players on the Professional Darts Corporation circuit will get financial help up to £1,000 if they need it. Yeah, no, I saw that. There will be a lot of those. You know, Josh, you're in and around the game, but the lower end of the tour, they don't earn a lot of money at all. The best players win the money. That's the way that sport is, and quite rightly so. But there's not much floating around at the bottom. So any help that the PDC are giving is greatly welcomed by the players, and I commend them for giving away what might be. I don't know. There's 128 players, and 30, 40 of those might not need it. So this £1,000 that they're due, that they can collect each, is not repayable either. So full credit to Matthew Porter and Barry Hearn from the PDC. Credit there. Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned there about the players lower down that would be more affected. For that reason, obviously, we hope that all the events can take place, but it seems inevitable that some will have to be sacrificed and fall by the wayside. For that reason, would you like to see maybe more of the ranking events prioritised, like the Pro Tours and European Tours, and maybe the non-ranked, the World Series finals, maybe the Champions League of Darts, those sort of events, if any have to be sacrificed, do you think they maybe should be the ones to go? Yeah, it's odd that you should say that, because I did an interview earlier this week. Well, it was yesterday, in fact. You couldn't get any earlier than Monday this week. I actually said that I think now there's too many non-ranked events anyway. And they should now step to one side and take priority. And look, I work on the Premier League. I couldn't care what events get put to one side. I want the tour to be fair, and it has to be, the ranking events have to take priority. I'm only a carer for the players. I want the players to get the best deal, and I don't actually know what's happening with those that have got, say, the 2-year coming off. As we know, the ranking system is on a 2-year rolling. It's on that 2-year basis. I'm not sure if people that the events are not being played, or they have been played sort of 2 years ago, so they're losing that money. I don't know if that's happening yet. So people could actually be dropping down the rankings without even playing. I hope that it's just kind of been kept at a standstill and nothing changes for the foreseeable, so the rankings stay the same. That would be the fairest way to me.
You mentioned earlier on about the coaching tutorials. I saw a couple you put on YouTube yesterday, which were extremely popular. But we know that you do a lot of coaching days with fans. We see you give your advice on Twitter to fans who email in their videos. But you also do a lot of coaching with players. And on our last podcast, we spoke to Devon Peterson, who spoke about his improvements. He's had a good start to 2020, and he was giving you a lot of credit for the work you've been doing with Devon.
And rightfully so. No, I'm kidding.
But does your coaching, is it purely on a technical level, or is it also the mental side as well?
No, I try not to get involved with the mental side because I'm not qualified. I don't know. I know the right way to throw darts. You wouldn't believe that watching me, but I know what faults people are making. Whereas the mental side of things, I'm sorry, I don't believe that player A thinks exactly the same as player B, and vice versa. I don't think there's a fix for you to say to someone, you have to think this way. So I don't this is going to sound to some ridiculous, but I don't quite believe in giving people thought processes when we all think slightly differently. I don't like the psychology of, well, he will be thinking this right now. In fact, I've done things and said things in commentary myself where now he should be thinking this or he should be thinking that. I never say they will be or I never confirm because I don't know.
Yeah.
Yet I do know the technical side of the game. That is what I do know. And look, the lessons, the school is going well. My school of darts here at home, I've got a purpose-built kind of room. I call it the hub.
Yeah.
Call it the hub. It's kind of fully equipped, and every dart that people throw, it's everything's recorded from 2 different angles. And I've got this Scolia system now, so we also know the traits, and it's not an opinion. Nothing is ever my opinion. I show the player exactly what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And people like Devon, he come to me, he wanted my help, and look, he's got the game. Yeah. I just pointed him in the right direction, just said, this could be better, that's absolutely perfect, crack on with that. And once people have visual confirmation of what they're doing right, and that confirmation is on video looking at them, but the visual confirmation for them is actually seeing the darts travel the way they want them to travel. Not that that's massively important, but the where they're going in. So if they're throwing well and they can see the 140s, 180s coming, and they feel there's a consistency there in the action, that's where every player wants to be. And Devon Peterson has run with all the advice I've given him, and as are a few more. But right now, darts coaching is, I think, about to boom. So this coronavirus has come around at a real inopportune time. Not that there's any good time for this. Let's be fair.
No.
It's an absolute kind of disaster for the world over. But yeah, I really enjoy this side of what I do, with the exhibitions and commentary as well, and doing this is what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Now, I just wanted to touch on the darts coaching side, because we see individual sports like maybe tennis and golf, which is easy to compare. You see a lot of top players have had coaches throughout their career, Tiger Woods, Roger Federer, whoever. In darts, it doesn't seem to be that prevalent. Why do you think that has been, and do you think that is going to change now?
Well, I think I can answer this, but I'm not going to talk for everyone, because when I was at my best, and it was a drizzly Tuesday, May '97. That was when I peaked. There was no tournament on. I was practicing for an hour. But no, joking aside, when I was at my best, between, call it the year 2000, 2007, 7, 8, I never ever thought about what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was just doing it. And I only started paying attention to what I was doing when it was going wrong. And when I become an ex-professional, as in ex-tour player, in 2011, I then started to work on my game. I then thought, right, come on now, why am I not as good as I was? Obviously, we all have our time, but I was still only 38 years of age. So I knew it wasn't an age thing. But we can't be as good as we were all the time at our peak. It doesn't work like that.
No.
We can't be at our peak all the time. We're not Phil Taylor. We're not Michael van Gerwen, whose B games are ridiculously brilliant. So I decided to work on my game, and I think when I was at my best, you know what? I didn't really listen to what anyone was saying when I was playing, when I was having a dodgy game. I just saw it as I didn't have a very good game.
Yeah.
I never asked myself questions, and I wish I had have, because it would have been, yeah, what did I do wrong there? And yet I just chose to not watch the game. The fact it was on TV and I'd lost to whoever, it could be anyone, millions of people have beaten me. And I never watched them back. It was like, how many times have you heard bad day at the office?
Yeah.
Now, I don't believe that. I do sometimes agree with it that, you know what, sometimes things, they conspire against us. Whatever you try doesn't work. You just don't feel comfortable. That's absolutely fine. That's a bad day at the office. But when someone is playing really bad, it's like, hold on now, why is he playing way below his best? If Michael van Gerwen was to go up there and average 82, 83, there would be, oh wait, just had one of those days from some. From me, I'd be thinking, why on earth is he playing that bad? What's happened? What's happened? If I can't see it, if I can see it in the action, then I have an answer. If I can't see it in the action, then I don't know. I don't know. And to speculate is ridiculous. But once you start asking yourself questions, why you're playing well, why you're not playing well, then the coaching will start to boom within the pro ranks. These players have got to ask themselves questions. And more are, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm getting more and more kind of questions from Premier League players, from world champions. Can you help me? What do I do here? What's happening here? And I tell them. And once you can help, and they know you can help, then that grows the game because they all talk to each other. So give it a couple of years, and I'm sure that we're going to see coaching take off within darts. But sorry to go on a bit more, but
no, it's fine.
What has to happen? This is a massive point. What has to happen is that the PDC has to allow a person from, call it Michael van Gerwen's team, Gedwin Price's team, Peter Wright's team, backstage during a break on a televised event. Because what happens now is these players come off for a break. And they don't know what's going wrong. They're just losing 3-0, that's all. But someone out there of their team has seen what can happen, whether it be a slow rhythm, quick rhythm. Not everyone picks up on the technical side like I do. If they had someone there like that could just say something, that again would promote coaching in darts, because they realise that, do you know what, I don't know everything about my game. I don't know everything about what I'm doing. So anyone helping would be a massive added bonus for him. But I think it starts there. I think it really starts there.
Well, that's an interesting idea, because it's no different really to, say, football, where at half time, you know, you go in and you regroup and your manager maybe changes the tactics and adapts. So it's no different to that, really, is it?
No, it's not. And it's a bit. Look, in tennis, you're not allowed to coach from the sidelines, but this isn't tennis. This is darts.
Yeah.
And yes, in football, from the sidelines, every single minute of the game, the manager is thinking about strategy and the way that the game's panning out. And you know, you've watched darts and watched quality darts enough to know that some games you find yourself in trouble, but you feel that there's a way out.
Yeah.
So you're not panicking. Other games you find yourself in as much trouble scoreline wise, but it's all different because you're not playing well, they're playing better than you, and then you start to panic. You know it's wrong.
Yeah.
But we've all seen that. And if someone is just there, they pull them to one side at the break, give it, look, you're panicking, you're throwing too quick, you're throwing too slow, just relax. And if you can relax, please do so. Maybe even speed up, just change something, because what you're doing is not working. Or if they want to get really technical, then they call in the cavalry, which may be me.
We can't do this interview, Wayne, without reflecting on your amazing success at the Walk-On World Cup last week. Not only did you beat Raymond van Barneveld in the final, you beat Phil Taylor and Michael van Gerwen en route to glory. Just tell us your thoughts on that.
It was one of the easiest draws I've ever had in any event. It was a great bit of fun, and like we've said, it was a welcome distraction from being stuck inside, and everyone took it for the way it was meant to be. That was a bit of fun. It was a bit of nice, friendly ribbing and jibing on Twitter, which is what we need. We don't want arguing and nonsense on there and hatred and all that floating about. This is a horrible time for everyone in life. So, yeah, it really was good. But I'll tell you what, though, honestly, joking aside now, I started to take it a lot more seriously than I thought I would. You know, when you're thinking, I'm getting involved in it, my wife, Donna, was saying, you're on Twitter again. And I found myself, I shouldn't be divulging this, you know, I really shouldn't. I found myself saying to her, I care. I want to win this. And when the team Mardle, when they rallied to beat Michael van Gerwen, do you know what? I believed it could happen. Still had a tough draw, but I believed it could happen. And do you know what? Team Mardle did me proud. And all joking aside, all those times I've acted like a clown on stage, and I've created a bit of entertainment for anyone. It kind of makes me feel like, do you know what? A bit of justification. It makes me feel like I was doing the right thing. We all want to be entertained, and to each and every one that voted, thank you. To those that didn't, what's wrong with you?
Well, I've got to say, you've always been one of the great entertainers, Wayne, but what were your thoughts on Barney's moves? I thought you did your walk-on pretty well.
You know what? I actually thought to myself, I'm so glad that he didn't put that video out before he'd actually won. Before I'd won and he'd lost. There's no way I would have won. No way on this earth. He went full Mardle, didn't he?
He did. It was superb.
Yeah, full Mardle. That's what he did. And full credit to him. There's a perception with Barney that he can be a bit miserable. Look, people get their game faces on. He's a winner. He's a 5-time world champ, but you name it, he's won it. And when it comes to having a bit of fun, he can mix it with the best. So, yeah, full credit RVB.
Perfect. And just finally, Wayne, I've been running my own, I don't know if you've seen, I think you have seen on Twitter, I've been running a Fantasy World Championship where people from past and present, and you've got through to the last 16, you beat Trina Gulliver, despite you saying you voted for Trina yesterday.
I did vote for Trina.
Well, tomorrow you've got Phil Taylor, so 16-time world champion. You knocked him out last week. You fancy your chances of doing the double? Right.
Right. Forget about the Walk-On World Championship. That's gone. Yes, I'd beat him in that. That was a nice win. But I've actually beaten him in a World Championship, actually throwing darts as well.
You have.
Now, can I pull it off again? Not a chance. No. 2008 quarterfinal was an absolute fluke.
You never know. If Team Mardle rally again, Wayne, you never know.
I know, mate. Look, don't underestimate Team Mardle, because they will come back and haunt every single dream you have.
Wayne, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat. Thanks as always, and hopefully we'll see you very soon back when the darts gets underway.
Yeah, exactly, Josh. I just want to say to everyone, just look, keep safe and be sensible about it. And we know we all love the darts, but our health and safety is paramount at this moment. So everyone just keep loving each other.
Perfect. Great statement, Wayne, and pleasure to chat to you. Take care, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Josh. Thanks, mate.
Josh is Dartistry. Josh is Dartistry. Josh is Dartistry. Josh is Dartistry.
Okay, there you have your folks, there is Josh's interview with World Cup walk-on winner, Wayne Mardle. Sounds like he enjoyed the winning the competition, Josh, and a trophy in the cabinet for Wayne.
Yeah, fully deserved, John. He's one of the nicest guys in the game, and what I particularly loved is the fact that after his win, I don't know if you've seen, he's changed his Twitter bio now to Walk-On World Cup winner Wayne Mardle. So he's basking in the glory, and who can blame him? So that is great to see. But yeah, joking aside, he was also really interested in Wayne on a number of points here, talking about the coronavirus pandemic and the impact on darts. But I think we're going to talk about it in a little while, particularly the interest on the coaching side of the game and the work he does.
Yeah, the coaching stuff was really interesting. Jordan, you wanted to make a point, I know, about Wayne's approach to the physical side of the game as opposed to the mental side of the game.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting to listen to his take on how he only teaches the technical side of the game. He can spot, he shows the players how and what they're doing wrong, but he doesn't actually try and coach them on the mental side. But the way he coaches, showing the players what they're doing, must give them a boost on the mental side, purely because they can react and they can understand what they're doing and where they're going wrong, because they can see it themselves. I think it was really good that he teaches the technical side, but it probably does I can't think of the word.
No, there's a correlation, isn't there, between getting it technically right and getting it mentally right? Because if you get it technically right, you're going to be more confident, and confidence is, a massive thing to the mental side of the game. So yeah, I agree. It's one does have a knock on to the other. I suspect, I think I mentioned before, that they all have sports psychologists anyway, so they don't get too down on themselves if things aren't quite going their way. But yeah, interesting stuff.
Neil, when you started that sentence with "confidence is I thought you were going to launch into a line from Park Life by Blur and say confidence is a preference of the habitual voyeur of what is known as Park Life.
Yeah, I could have done.
The famous Phil Daniels who spoke that line in Park Life. But yeah, again, as ever, it's the second or third time we've had Wayne on the show. He always gives up his time to have a chat with Josh. It's very much appreciated, Wayne. It's always great to have you on, so we thank you for that.
This is Kevin Peterson, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, gentlemen, as ever, we always finish the show, the Bounce Out shows, with some news articles. Josh, I see the first thing you wanted to discuss was the financial package support scheme for the PDC tour card holders.
Yeah, that's right, John. We touched on it in the interview with Wayne as well. It was announced on Wednesday. There's been a lot of concern, particularly about the lower ranked players, because with all the tournaments being postponed, there's no income for them, really, particularly those who are full-time professionals. We know some are still self-employed and still work part-time, but for those who are purely focusing on the dart side, they've got no tournaments to play in, no exhibitions. So financially, there's concerning times. So the PDPA, Professional Darts Players Association, along with the PDC, have come up with a financial package support scheme for all the 128 tour card holders if they need the money. I'd imagine some of the top players at the top higher echelons of the world rankings, maybe the top 10, maybe aren't in as much need financially. But anyway, there's an immediate emergency fund of up to £1,000 available for any tour card holders in real need of any assistance financially. And as well as this, the PDPA and PDC have also announced a hardship fund for any tour card holder. Now that is for those who require any support in terms of the months ahead, like an advance against future prize money, for example. So really good work from the PDC, Matt Porter, the Chief Executive, and Barry Hearn, PDC Chairman, to implement that, to try and give some security for the players in these concerning and worrying times.
Neil, nice to see the PDC being proactive during uncertain times.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's just very difficult to really take on board the scale of this thing. But you're talking about in all walks of life, whatever your profession, however old you are, the likelihood is that someone in your household is going to be impacted by this. And darts players are no different. So great to see them being proactive and trying to offer up some security to support the players. Because the darts is nothing without the players. So it's nice to see that that's recognised.
Josh, we did mention on the previous Bounce Out show we recorded, we were wondering about the rest of the people in and around the PDC, not so much the players, but the officials and that kind of thing. Have you got any news on whether they've got access to anything similar, or you've not heard anything on that scale?
It's been quite well documented, John, that the government have introduced a furlough scheme. So some of the PDC officials, referees, commentators may be able to try and use that. But there's been quite a lot of concern as well about the self-employed and freelance. There's still a little bit of confusion, but the government have tried to do their best to try and provide a viable alternative for those. But I haven't heard anything from the PDC on that side, but I'm sure they're going to do their very best endeavour to support the freelancers, commentators as best they possibly can.
Yeah, good work from the PDC, and they are to be applauded on that. Let's move it along. Josh, second news article you've got on our agenda. Talk to me about darts at home.
Yeah, so it came to light yesterday afternoon. The PDC announced that they're going to launch darts at home. So that involved 5 PDC players, which were Devon Peterson, Chris Dobie, Luke Humphreys, Ted Everts and Matthew Edgar. They were participating in darts, well, as it says, darts at home. So it was streamed from their own bedroom, living room, wherever. It was done via Darts Connect, which is a system used for all the PDC Pro Tour events. Dan Dawson, usual PDC commentator we've had on the show a couple of episodes ago, he was on commentary. So we were basically watching live darts from the players' bedrooms or living rooms. It was really good entertainment, about 3 hours of great fun. They all played each other in a round-robin format, and the tournament was won by Devon Peterson. Him and Chris Dobie both won 3 out of 4 matches, but Devon just won it on legs difference. And we had Devon on the last show talking about his good run of form and his good start to 2020. So good little bit of practice and another win for Devon.
How did they film that, Josh? Was it done? Did they get cameras installed to
I
film
think
it?
I think some had webcams, whether it be from their laptop, some just had it filming on their mobile phone, I think. So it was a little bit skewy at times, the footage, but it's to be expected. And I'm sure next time they're going to go up a level. But it's almost, you have to be kind of trust darts to an extent, because you couldn't see every single target, but you could see roughly where the darts were going, and it was just good entertainment. Nice to see a little bit of live darts again. But yeah, it was great fun, and it was best of 7 legs every game. So it was first to 4, short format, on and off, roll on, roll off. It was really good entertainment.
Jordan, let's hope the players were more honest than Josh is when he's throwing darts at his dartboard in his bedroom.
Excuse me.
Yeah, well, we can only hope that they're actually pointing the camera at the screen, at the dartboard, unlike Josh, who was pointing it at his wall and telling us all he was getting 160 checkouts.
So, darts at home from the PDC on Wednesday was not the only darts played at home this week, was it, Josh?
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't at all. Well, Neil, me and you had a decent little tussle, I thought, wasn't it? Was it Monday night?
Monday night, it was a good game.
It was. I think I won it 2-1, but it could have gone either way.
I think I won it 2-1. I think I won it 2-1.
But my camera, so we used Zoom for it. My camera was very clear. Josh's was very blurry.
Yeah.
So
all that chestnut.
So when he's bent the wire, he's claiming something else. Yeah, I know.
After I narrowly missed out on a tops finish to take the match. He said he nailed 6 first start, but
right.
In my defence, Neil will have to admit this. I zoomed in on both of my 6s that I hit to win my leg, so there could be no question about my integrity whatsoever, John.
Listen, that aside, Josh, I think we should, here on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, I think we should take credit for Devon Peterson's win. Obviously, his appearance on the last episode buoyed him and spurred him along to victory, Josh.
I think so, and I think as Wayne Mardle said, I think Wayne said he wants a little bit of credit as well for Devon's resurgence. He's been doing a little bit of coaching with him, so I think us and Wayne can share the plaudits for that one, John.
Excellent stuff. Well done to Devon for winning that. Hopefully there'll be some more of that coming up. Really enjoyed that, so we look forward to more from the PDC. Josh, we've got some news on events that have now been rescheduled. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, so 2 World Series events have fallen by the wayside, John. The Nordic Darts Masters, the inaugural event, was due to be held in Copenhagen in June. That has now been rescheduled back to October, the 23rd and 24th. And the US Darts Masters was going to be held in New York, Madison Square Gardens for the first time, the Big Apple. Unfortunately, that's now going to be pushed back till June 2021. It's a disappointing news, but almost inevitable, really. I mean, there's going to be some events this year that do fall by the wayside because we've already missed almost 1 month's worth of action now. It could go on, who knows, till maybe June, July time. They're going to have to sacrifice some tournaments, and as I said with Wayne in the interview, I think really they should focus more on the ranking events because a lot of players who've got on the 2-year tour card system are defending a lot of money and maybe in danger of losing their tour card. So the ranking events have to come above the World Series and exhibition events, in my opinion. So the US Masters is put back a year. So disappointing news for those who have bought tickets, but I'm sure they'll still be able to go to next year if they can, or if not, they'll be refunded. So there'll be no issue in that respect.
Now, what do you make of the rescheduling of these events? I mean, in particular, the ones that have been rescheduled for this year. The US Darts Masters, as Josh says, there is now taking place in 2021, but the Nordic Darts Masters in Copenhagen originally scheduled for June has been rescheduled to 23rd and 24th of October. I applaud them for being optimistic, but there's every chance that even by October, we still might have issues in this country where, social distancing has to be observed, and we just don't know when we're going to be able to get back to any kind of normality.
We don't, but I do think that putting it back to October gives us the best possible chance to get through this. I think there'll be limitations, and as you say, I think social distancing will have to continue. I'm actually a bit more optimistic, seeing what I've seen on the news in Italy last few days. Yes, they've still got massive problems, and yes, it's terrible what's happening, but they are talking about starting to gradually allow certain sections of people back into freedom from the lockdown. So maybe some of the younger generation will be able to go out first, and they'll reopen shops. So giving themselves what I think is a nice buffer up to October on that. It is a guessing game, but as I say, I'm optimistic that if we can, globally, all pull together and get through this, things can get back to normal, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
Josh, we talked there about having to reschedule events because of the coronavirus. Sadly, one of the most popular men from the darts family, Carl Anderson, tested positive, didn't he, recently?
Yeah, I really feel for Carl, John. I mean, he's had a really tough time over the last 12 and 18 months. I'm sure you're all aware that Carl's family, while he's playing on the PDC Tour, his family are based back home in Australia. So he's got a wife and family back home. So that's always tough for him. And he's been quite candid about how he's really struggled, particularly the last year or so, being away from home so much. So he spent more time back home after the World Championship, didn't fly back to the UK until late February. He decided to skip the first four Players' Championship event. So he only played in the UK Open and won Pro Tour doubleheader before the postponements came into force, and he flew back to Australia. And he's since started to develop some of the symptoms. Him and his family were tested. I think his wife and child came back negative, but unfortunately Carl did test positive, so he's now self-isolating. His management company confirmed he's self-isolating in a farmhouse back home in Perth. So we wish Carl all the very best and hope for a speedy recovery for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish him all the best, and hope he can free himself of the symptoms ASAP. Let's move on to a little bit more positive news, Josh. We talk about you and Neil having an online game or a virtual game with each other. There's news coming through of a game that probably won't be up to the same standard as you and Neil, but talk to me about Phil Taylor versus Raymond van Barneveld.
Yeah, we did mention this on the last bounce out, that Phil Taylor and Barney had agreed to do a live streaming game on the Target Nexus board, so it'll be soft tip game. They hadn't confirmed a date yet, and Phil Taylor posted a tweet yesterday, I think, saying looking forward to this next week against Barney. So there's not a confirmed date yet, but it will be the week beginning April the 6th, which is next week. So they're going to lock horns on the Nexus boards. Soft tip game, as I mentioned. You'd have to make Phil the favourite because he's got quite a little bit of soft tip experience since he's retired. I'm not sure Barney's ever played soft tip competitively, but it's going to be great fun. Going to be streamed on Target's Facebook page because they're both Target darts players. And I think it's going to be money. They're going to raise money for charity whilst doing so. So it's going to be a great event. Two legends of the game locking horns and some live darts to try and occupy the boredom we've got. So looking forward to that.
And you've got your excuses in early doors as well.
Yeah, he said Phil Taylor's the favourite for that. I mean, there's nothing like going on the deflect early doors, Neil, is there?
Let's be honest, it's not a surprise, is it?
What is Nexus board?
I can answer that for you, Jordan. The Nexus board, I did look into it with my father-in-law about 6 months ago when we were really getting into throwing some arrows. The Nexus board is basically, it's a dartboard. It's an electronic dartboard, and you throw your darts at it physically with soft tip darts. So obviously you're not damaging it by throwing sharp darts. It is electronic, and your dart will fall into one of the several hundreds of holes that are located in the board, and you score it as normal. So before the game starts, they can set up the parameters, so how many legs and sets they're going to play, and to decide who's going to be the winner. Functions exactly the same as a normal dartboard. Phil will be able to see what he scored, and Barney will be able to see what Phil scored before he takes his go, and so on and so forth. It's just a very intelligent electronic dartboard that lets you log on, find an opponent with a unique ID number, or you can play against a random you can, if you just want to play, whoever's out there on the board, you can search for a random opponent. It's a very, very intelligent piece of equipment. I have seen them in use. This is just a bit like playing, a game of FIFA or whatever against another opponent in their house, just with some very well structured technology. So we look forward to that. Neil, again, we talk about Josh mentioning who the favourite's going to be. Do you think we will be able to get any odds on that? Do you think any of our favourite bookmakers, people like Sky Bet or Sporting Life, will be offering a market on that game?
Yes,
they are offering odds, I believe.
Yeah, I think they will do, because I think there's so little sport at the moment. I think they'll be grateful for any type of sporting event. So I'm fairly certain that if they're not already, they will be in the very near future.
I think.
Let me check.
So just looking at Sky Bet, the Nexus Darts Challenge 2020.
There you go.
Phil Taylor 2-1 on favourite, and Raymond van Barneveld 6-4. So yes, they are offering odds. Whether those odds whether they'll start to offer more markets, I guess we'll see a bit nearer the time. But you can have a nice punt on Barney, although Josh doesn't fancy him.
I think Raymond van Barneveld should be the favourite. I think Barney retired from the game a lot more recently than Phil did. Phil's been off the circuit for a number of years now. Barney, a little bit fresher, should really still be throwing quality arrows, probably more in the groove than Phil Taylor. And if Raymond van Barneveld doesn't win this showdown, he's an absolute disgrace. Josh?
I resign from the podcast, John. It's been nice seeing you.
Oh, that's great, because that's what we've been waiting for.
No, all jokes aside, to be fair, I think if it was a steel tip game, I probably would make Barney slight favourite, just in terms of the freshness. Phil's still been playing. He's played a lot of exhibitions, Phil, still. He's still very active on the exhibition side. And I know he went to Japan a few years back, I think maybe last year even, to play in a few soft tip events. So let's be honest, though, it's all on the day. It's a bit of a coin toss. No one really knows. But it's more about the fact that they're raising money for charity, and it's going to curb out our boredom for a bit. So looking forward to seeing two legends of the game renew their rivalry, the 84th time they'd have met.
Jordan, do you think it will be as classic a game as the famous 2007 World Championship final?
No, I agree with you, Neil. I think it'll be a whitewash for RVB. I think he's fresh, and if he doesn't whitewash, I'll be surprised.
Josh, your response?
You're trying to set me up for a fall here, because I'm not gonna give in to your probing games.
Barney's in form though.
He is in form.
Finalist of the Walk-On.
Yep.
Semi-finalist of the Josh's Dartistry Fantasy World Championship.
Yep.
Listen, if it was a Twitter poll, I'd make him favourite. Hang on.
Yeah, you can't hide behind Twitter forever. But listen, we look forward to that. Did we say where it was going to be streamed? Where it was going to be on Facebook or YouTube?
I think it'll be Facebook. It may be YouTube, but I think because they're both represented by Target, or they're both sponsored by Target Darts, I think Target are organising it. So they'll, I'm sure, announce more details in the coming days. But we've not got an exact date yet, but it will be next week, so we're led to believe.
I think it's Wednesday, the 8th of April.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good then.
Okay, well, we look forward to that match. Okay, Josh, let's finish on another positive story for this episode. Michael van Gerwen's wife, Daphne, she gave birth yesterday, didn't she?
Yeah, lovely news, John. It's a horrible time for everyone, really, with this pandemic, so it's always great to see some good news. And, yeah, congratulations to Michael, Daphne and the rest of the Van Gerwen family welcoming their second child into the family, baby Mike. So we could have there's not only one Michael van Gerwen anymore, John.
Yeah, Mike, strange you went for that name. I was thinking that given his his ongoing rivalry with Gerwin Price, I thought Gerwin would have been a nice name for the baby, and then we would have had Gerwin van Gerwen. What do you think, Neil?
No, it's not really doing it for me, that one.
Yeah, me neither.
Any other?
That's why he went out of the Fantasy World Championships yesterday.
Yeah, he had to get off, didn't he? Off to the maternity ward.
Especially when we were discussing whether he would actually take part in, would he see that he was losing and take part, and then about 2 hours later we got news of the baby. So he probably had more important things to do.
Yeah, we'll let him off just this once, I think.
I bet he's already had a custom-made green Michael van Gerwen dart shirt made for little baby Mike.
I'm sure. Listen, he'll probably be beating us when he's all 5 years old. I mean, if he's got his dad's genes, he'll be unstoppable.
Well, listen, anyway, many congratulations to the Van Gerwen family. That's great news and a nice positive for us to end on.
This is Stephen Bunting, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, guys, that brings us to the end of the Bounce Out, episode 5. Thanks for joining us, Neil. Thank you for coming online. I know you've been really busy tonight. What you got? Normally, guys, I ask you what you got planned for the weekend or the rest of the week, but
I'm probably going to visit the shed or the garage.
Have a walk down the end of the garden.
Exactly. So no, it's more of the same. I'll probably get on the dartboard and try and beat Josh. I'm not so sure I will, but I think the dartboard's been a real game changer, to be honest. Anytime I'm feeling a little bit bored, it's straight to the dartboard. So no real hardship for me.
Jordan, what you got planned for the weekend? Anything exciting?
I've got a few plans. Got a virtual birthday party on Saturday, and got your virtual quiz tomorrow night.
Yes, Friday night. I am hosting a virtual quiz night on my Facebook page. I will be live streaming that. Just for those of you who follow me on Twitter, I will post a link. It's open to the public. You don't have to be friends with me if you want to play along. So if you want to check that out, just follow the link, and it's all going to be good fun on the Friday night. So I'll be hosting that, doing a few more online chats and streaming and general stuff like that. Josh, any plans for the next few days?
Well, we've got the Fantasy World Championship, John. That is my focus at the moment. That resumes on Saturday, which will be good fun, followed by the final on Sunday. And other than that, I'll probably be watching paint dry.
Excellent. Okay, gentlemen. Jordan, thank you for your time.
Thanks, John.
Neil, good to see you.
Thank you.
Josh, as ever, thank you.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure.
And I'm John, signing out. Goodbye.
Josh's Dartistry.